Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Justice Served Daily. I appreciate you guys being here. And I told you I was going to rush to try to finish this show up, to try to get it completed and catch up with all the shows. So I appreciate you guys all being here. So let's see. I see Shane and Cryptex and Lauren and Daisy. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Misunderstood. And rescue all the dogs. Hello. Yes, be careful driving. Rescue all the dogs. So I will go ahead and get started here in just a second. I want to go ahead and just give an update about what's going on and what has gone on today with the trial so far. So Judge Gall and the attorneys are not messing around. They have already picked 14 of the jurors. They had 100 basically potential jurors show up, scheduled to show up each day. And so out of the first 100, they have eliminated people. The stuff that's out there about that was that they eliminated somebody who talked about their psychic abilities for the case. They got rid of somebody who wanted to mention they don't like the color green. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know how that came up or who was wearing the green, right? Why he would say that. And then we have it already down. So the good news is they'll have the additional 100 show up to pick the last two. So they'll have a total of the 12 jurors plus the 4 alternates. And Judge Gull has already indicated that regardless if they finish the selection of the jurors early, meaning that they were supposed to have that completed and then be prepared to start trial on Friday, no matter what, they're not going to start till Friday. So even if it's done early, it's not going to push them ahead. And I'm going to assume it's because she's going to try to address the maybe the additional filings. Who knows how that's going to end up going down. But so let me go ahead and share this with you. I don't know if I like me in the corner over there. I don't know if I'm blocking too much when I do this. So hello, Nana. Hello, Gibba. Welcome, 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 everybody. So there is a lot of information to go through. And again, I apologize. I still have a tickle in my throat from when I was sick, and I had actually totally lost my voice. And I hope you guys are careful out there because I don't know if you've heard, there's a lot of walking pneumonia going around. And people aren't even realizing they have it. So please be careful if you are prone to catch that. So now when I go through some of these slides, please forgive me as I cannot see some of the chat in that, but I'll put this over here for I can try to glance down in it to look and see if you guys have any questions. And I'm bad at this, so I have to remember. My crew tells me this all the time. If you are not subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for you'll have updates of what's going on, and watch also in the community post of court documents and updates. And I'm not a monetized channel. I don't believe in what they restrict your crime to not be able to say if somebody's murdered or sexually assaulted or anything like that. I just don't mess with that. So your likes and your subscribes mean a lot to me. So, all right. So we're going to talk about the defense team filings that happened on Thursday and then a bunch on Friday, with them knowing that Monday was going to start the trial. And then also about Todd Click. So he was, he was always classified and brought forward to everybody as this former assistant chief of the Rushville Police Department, which was not what his position was at the time, that this was going on. And he was obviously a big defense team ODINIST theory witness, and arrested for lying and forgery, basically putting kids in danger, which is the biggest thing I'm worried about, and some stuff that I am looking further into. So, so here we go. I'll give you this update. And as we go through this, I'm going to be going through each of the inmates that the defense is going to be calling during the show you connections and stuff to them, why I believe they're all being called, each one of them, and what the connections and stuff are. So, here we go.
New at 5:30, a former state worker expected to testify in the upcoming Delphi murder case is now facing criminal charges.
Jessica Schmidt is at the alert desk with what we know right now. So we can tell you that Todd Click, a former Indiana Department of Child Services assessment worker, is now accused of falsifying documents in 5 different cases, including some that involved allegations of child abuse. Click's charges include forgery, official misconduct, and obstruction of a child abuse assessment. Prosecutors believe that he forged parent-guardian signatures on at least 7 children's services forms and falsified 10 other documents, all between December of 2023 and February 2024. In one of those cases, in January of this year, Ripley County investigators say a girl reported to school officials that she had been touched inappropriately by a family friend. Click claimed that he visited that child's home, but prosecutors say that never happened, despite the incident being reported to the Child Services Hotline twice. According to Wish TV, Click has been involved in the high-profile 2017 murders of 2 young girls in Delphi. The defense team for the suspect in that case, Richard Allen, hired Click to investigate a possible link between the killings and a cult that does sacrifices. And reports indicate that Click is listed as a witness for the defense in that trial, so it's really not clear what will happen with that now. Per Wish, Click is also a former Rushville police officer and an Indiana State Police agent. At the alert desk, Jessica Schmidt, Fox 19 Now.
All right, so let me always have trouble moving this without making the movie or making the video play again. And let's see if I can do this without.
New at 5:30, a former state worker expected to testify in the upcoming.
Sorry. Come on now. Oh, this is what I'll do. Hopefully this will keep. All right. There we go. All right. So here is the information for the different counts that he was charged with. And hello, everybody. Hello, Junior Johnson, Jamie Hicks. Hello. So we've got the different counts and stuff from here. Now, Ripley County is out of Rushville. And we've got counts 1 and 2 that Todd Click was charged with. Here's count 3. So in the probable cause, David, it is Michael Lepper, who the officer who with the Indiana Inspector General, who did the investigation and stuff on him. And basically that he goes over the information talking about that they were contacted by Child Services, Department of Child Services, so DCS here. And it talks that on April 11th of 2024, he received a complaint from the Indiana Department of Child Services, and that a former employee, because Todd Click had resigned from that position, and I'm going to show you where he reflects that stuff in there. So, and it talks about that the reported that a family case manager to the DCS case management system, and according to the reports, made false information on family visits. So he claimed like he saw, so these again are, you've got children who've been abused. There were children who'd been molested. And so he was writing these reports stating that there were dates that he talked to, and I've got several of the cases, dates that he said he talked to a parent, dates that he said he talked to the child, and even like said they made a plan or did this and what the thing was going to be to move forward. And he lied about that. And the parents themselves had filed a complaint and talking about this stuff and saying that he didn't speak to anybody. And so they had to start following up on the cases, talking through several of them to see if they had the visits, if they did ever speak to him, if he did ever meet. I mean, there's meetings and stuff that he said he did that he didn't do. He met in people's houses, which they didn't do, right? So, so basically they're saying that the cases that they found that were lied on were from July 9th of 23 to March 2nd of 24, up until when he resigned. So he was supposed to be, again, the assessment worker for it. And so, you know, he lied on this stuff. And so this is one of the example of the case documents. It shows what the system reported, what the family had said, what the victims had said. And I'm sure you don't want me to go through all of those, but I will tell you that this represented 11 children of the cases that they found from this time frame. And it appears that I think it's two technically, of the ones that is seen here were children that were molested, but not one of them was not molested by somebody in the house. It was like a family friend who molested the child, and he didn't go talk to the family, talk to the kid, do nothing whatsoever. So here he is, not protecting kids, right? And it doesn't make any sense. So, I looked a little bit further in this. And so on this, they show the probable cause when they asked for his arrest. And then we've got the warrant that they issued. So here's something I wanted to show you. So on his LinkedIn account, he sat here and showed that he is a retired police officer from the Rushville Police Department. This shows in his experience list of where he's listing that he's with the Rushville Police Department from this time frame to this time frame. And then you also have over here where he's the school resource officer. Well, you heard that from the news clip that I just played, that he is, working for the DCS and supposed to be reporting that, the reports on these kids. Well, if you look at that, it shows that he was doing that from August 19th to December of 2021. Well, if you go over here, he was showing that he was the patrol sergeant from 2020 to 2021. And then he's got the assistant chief of police from 2012 to 2019. Now, this information I know was kind of brought up a little bit about that. But the other thing I thought was interesting in regards to this is that if you look in the far right, organizations and stuff that he belonged to, but he had it listed as belonged to, so but he put down that he's part of a task force. So it shows that he stated that he was working Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force from 2008 to 2011. Now, the reason I pull that out is because that's pretty upsetting, considering that he's doing reports about children that are being molested, taking these and then not going and checking on them, right? So it's in there. There is another case of another victim that I heard about that he may have been the reporting officer for. And I'm trying to work on that, because if he's not doing these reports, that means these guys are getting away with child molestation. So that obviously put a dent into the defense teams having a witness come to testify, because Todd Click was the officer at the time who worked with other officers, and he was very much supporting the whole ODINIST theory, right, for the Delphi murders. So we get these filings that come up, and I'm going to go through the filings first of the motion to transport by the Indiana Department of Correction and the inmates that are in this. So in the inmates, we get Kegan Klein. Now, that could be a surprise to you, or maybe not a surprise to you, because we've kind of talked about that. Recently did a show with Cryptex talking about the Kleins and talking about, why are they not being called up? So in the motions that were filed, the details and stuff for it, it's all the same. They didn't word anything differently in it other than asking for them to be transported. So that basically in this, again, all of them are the same. They request that the court issue an order directing the Carroll County Sheriff to transport inmate Kegan Klein to the Carroll County Courthouse to appear to testify at the trial in the above referenced cause. In support of said motion, defendant Allen states as follows. Okay, so that the jury trial is, starting Monday. Remember this, they filed for Friday, so today. And that the defense intends to call Kegan Klein as a witness. All right, so let me show you. So again, the same thing is for each one. They're basically saying they're bringing all these inmates, all these witnesses forward because they're want to bring still the third party, and their wording is still with the ODINIST part about a third party responsible, and that these are the people who did it. Okay, So I'm going to point something out to you. And in a minute, you're going to know why I point this out to you. Okay. So Kegan Kline, after he was convicted in Miami County, they transferred him from there to Wabash Valley. And so we all knew that originally, because there was a big deal that when Richard Allen eventually got transferred out of Westville, he got transferred to Wabash. So a lot of people knew he was transferred to Wabash. So Kegan Kline, then while he was in there, so the case finished up, they pulled off those charges in November. They sat here, they end up, finding guilty, whatever. And so basically that ended 2023. And then we've got, basically beginning 2024, he's sitting in Wabash. Well, after that, he went to appeal. And he can't appeal that he's guilty because he pled guilty, but he could appeal for a sentence. So when he appealed for his sentence, he got transferred again, not by his request and not by his attorney's request, but he got transferred out of there to the Indiana State Prison in Michigan City. So if you look to the left side, that is the record that shows when it was pulled and updated to show that he was no longer in Wabash and that he was at the Indiana State Prison. So what happened after that is that he sat there while and he was upset about it. And he was then sitting in Michigan City. He was worried about being in Michigan City. And then he got moved. Now, if you caught my show, this was not covered on local news. This was not broadcasted all over the place. I went in, saw that he was transferred all of a sudden, and was suspect if he was working out a deal or something, because all of a sudden he was transferred. And again, nobody reported on it. And you can go watch my show when I did it, that he was transferred out of the Michigan City State Prison to the Newcastle Correctional Facility, right? And that's where he is today. So right now he still shows that he's there today. So just remember where we started, where we went, where he's been. So we started in Wabash. We went to the Indiana State Prison in Michigan City. We moved from Michigan City, the state thing, to the Newcastle Correctional Facility. So we go to one of the inmates that was requested, again, for a motion for transport by the defense. And this is Reese Davis Jr. Can't find a dang picture of him, but it was back in 2015, and then he's in his location. So anyway, this is his thing. Again, it's the same stuff. No details are given at all, other than they want these people called. Oh, by the way, so they want them ready. They inform the judge that it takes 24 hours notice in order to get there, and that they have to wait till after the prosecutor presents all their evidence, so that then they can be ready to quickly notify the prisons that they want the transport in 24 hours, for they can call these guys up. Okay. And that it's going to save the money and government and blah, 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 and the community if they let them do this now instead of waiting to do it like the judge said about, right? Okay. So this shows that full stuff that I was talking about. Wants the honorable court to direct that they would be transferred, and that they would when they decide that they want them. So I looked up where our Reese is located. And Reese happens to be at the Newcastle Correctional Facility, where Kegan Kline has been, where Kegan Kline still is, right? So let's look at this. Now, Reese was, I must have moved that. Did I move it? I feel like I did. All right, it's probably up here somewhere. Okay. So, I think I have them filed in here, but so Reese has stuff for drugs, theft, all those kind of charges and stuff, for meth, and that is why he's in prison there. So then we go to James Chadwell II. Again, same motion to transport document. So if you don't know and you didn't hear about him in Indiana, this is the horrific monster who in April of 2021 had a 9-year-old girl come to his door. He has a dog, and all of a sudden the mom sees that the little girl's missing. People start looking for her. The cops come to his door. Like basically the mom called right away, and they were there like within 30 minutes. This is up in Lafayette in Tippecanoe County. And they leave. They talk to some other neighbors. Those neighbors, then say about that the last place they saw her was over there. She was tied up and chained up in his basement behind a basement door with a padlock on it already. And the child had been beaten, bit by his dog, sexually assaulted. It was just the most horrific thing you can think of, right? So this is his my case charges. This is the info about him, and I will show you the connection in a second. If you can't hear it, let me know.
He's guilty. The man who abducted, beat, and molested a 9-year-old girl in his Lafayette home faced a judge today and admitted to all of it. James Chadwell II is now going to prison for the rest of his life. Today at 5, Emily Longnecker watched it all happen from inside the courtroom and says the guilty plea saves jurors from a horrific trial.
Tippecanoe County prosecutor Pat Harrington says he is relieved that this case didn't go to trial because the police body camera footage that a jury would have seen is some of the most shocking he has ever seen. So bad, Harrington says, that many who have viewed it have had to have counseling. Handcuffed and dressed in a prison jumpsuit, 42-year-old James Chadwell II told a Tippecanoe County judge he was guilty of trying to murder a 9-year-old girl, first luring her to this home with the promise of petting his dog. In front of the little girl's family who was in the courtroom, Chadwell also admitted to beating the child, strangling her to the point of passing out, and then sexually molesting her in his basement.
It's disturbing that a human being could ever treat another person in this manner.
Chadwell told the judge he suffers from schizophrenia and post-traumatic stress disorder and had been drinking April 19th when he attacked the little girl who lived nearby. Police later found her in Chadwell's basement on a second visit to his home that same day after the girl's mom reported her missing. On their first visit, Chadwell told police the girl had been there but had left. Officers doubled back when neighbors said the last time they'd seen the 9-year-old was with Chadwell.
You heard him admit that his intent was to kill her. Had they not gone back, the results may have not been as they were today.
The case received wide media attention after Carroll County Sheriff Tobe Lesenby said they were investigating if Chadwell could be connected to the murders in Delphi of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. But Chadwell was never named a suspect in the case. Friday, his defense attorney spoke to that issue.
There's nothing to suggest that I've seen or that I've been told that he was part of that, so I don't believe he had anything to do with the murders of Abigail and Liberty.
Prosecutor Harrington said he hadn't discussed the possibility of a connection between Chadwell and the Delphi murders with anyone.
They keep that investigation very close to themselves, and they should.
Harrington remained focused on his case, saying the only closure for the victim was that the criminal case was over.
Every day is a day where they are trying to recover from their grieving process.
Chadwell's sentencing is set for December 16th. He could face up to 160 years in prison.
I'm going to click this out so that I can make sure it moves forward. It was a horrible case. So she was just outside and he convinced her to get into the house. And then the mother, within 30 minutes, the police are knocking on the door and he had already taken her down to his basement and done all of that to her. He had strangled her and she had passed out. He thought she was already dead. He thought he had already killed her. And then the police asked about coming in the house, which he let them in, and then the officers said, "What's behind that door?" And that's when he opened the door and that they found the girl. And luckily she was still alive. But can you imagine? How are you okay? Right? How is she going to ever be okay? So looking up, and I know a lot of you may already know this, but if you don't, where is Chadwell being held? He is at the Wabash Valley location as well, right? So remember, Kegan first goes to Wabash. I showed you that Chadwell's there. But in addition to, so the Reese is being held in Newcastle, where Kegan Kline is now and has been for a while, right? Since the mid part of this year or beginning part of the year. Chadwell is at Wabash. Now, I'm not saying, hey, maybe in there, because here's what my theory is with all of this. I think Kegan has talked to other people, meaning inmates. But Chadwell, I'm not necessarily going to say that's necessarily the connection, because let me show you why. So here he's in Wabash. And a lot of people didn't know this, and that's why I'm going ahead and doing this. Okay, so here's Chadwell. We know that Chadwell was arrested for this in Lafayette. He was in Tippecanoe County. That's where that girl was, right? That's where the little girl lived. But let me show you what else. Did you guys know that Chadwell lived in Peru, Indiana, where the Klines live? And not very far whatsoever to where the Klines live. So here I'm showing you proof of Chadwell II was evicted by his father, James Chadwell Sr., who lives in Peru. This is public record in the My case. It is showing you here in Miami Superior Court. Okay. And here's the actual eviction order. Now, remember, this case happened. That little girl was hurt in April of 2021. This eviction happened September 4th of 2020. And he was kicked out of the house located at 264 West 9th Street, Peru, Indiana. Now, I want you to see something else. This is a background report for James Chadwell. Now, he had lived in South Dakota. He'd been arrested and served a lot of time for assault and other things in South Dakota. There had been other claims that he had been, I'll just say with some others until I'm able to show it, trying to lure little girls in his home in South Dakota. Okay. Now, this report, what I found interesting, at least what it shows, is they try to report and give an update of when somebody's seen or not seen, whether they've had an address, they reside there, whether they're receiving mail and stuff there, and back and forth. But when you look at this particular report of where he was living in South Dakota, if you look down at the bottom, it shows the dates of that, showing that he was at the 264 West 9th Peru location, February 9th of 2016 till March 3rd of 2017. Why does that stop on March 3rd of 2017? Well, these other South Dakota addresses don't help any because they do an overlap, which a lot of times when you have the reports, that can happen on the background reports. We also have to consider that he had been in jail for a long time in South Dakota, which I'm fixing to show you that too. Well, if you look here, this shows, 2020. This is trying to show 2024. Well, we know that's not correct. I kept that updated and stuff in there. But I just find it interesting that they showed this of March 3rd of 2017. He's gone. Now, he's no longer showing he was staying with his dad, but he obviously was, because in order to get an adult out of your house, you have to evict them. And that's what this order was for, that he was there back again, at least by 2020, living with his father. So I want to show you this. This red balloon, I'll call it, is where Chadwell was staying in Peru. And over here at the very bottom star, where I'm circling right there near that bridge in the water, that's Kegan and Tony Klein's house. Right there. So not very far. Now, I also wanted to just show it this way. Again, here's the star, or the balloon, sorry, red balloon. That's where Chadwell was staying. The bottom, the star here is where the Kleins were living on Canal Street. The farthest right star that I'm showing, but it's on the bottom. So to the far right, there are two stars. The bottom star to the right is Grandma's house, where Kegan and Tony tried to say that they were. The way far up star, the farthest up on the right, is Trexler's house, his cousin. So that's where they said a phone was being used at his cousin Trexler's house. And that's where the phones were at the time. What's interesting, if you see this yellow line that's going all the way through here, that's 24. That's the Hoosier Heartland highway right there that that drives into Delphi. Yeah, it's not very far whatsoever. So what was interesting too at the time when I was watching Chadwell as well, that he was living in Tennessee, but Tennessee doesn't even show up as an address for him. This is a paper from Tennessee talking about him being a former person living in the community and talking about the charges that he's facing here in Indiana for what he did. And I took the bottom half of that article, and it says that Chadwell has a long criminal history, and that after leaving there in Tennessee, he has multiple felony convictions for assaults, thefts, and other charges, and appears to have spent a long stretch between the years 2001 and 2016 in prison in South Dakota. He had multiple convictions upon moving to Indiana, as well as receiving stolen property and a felony operating while intoxicated, along with resisting law enforcement. He most recently received a 90-day sentence after an October 2020 conviction for criminal trespass. He had also been either drinking or using drugs and had a child on a vehicle. I believe it was an ATV, and the child had got injured. And then, so this is the paper piece from Tennessee I wanted to show you. And here is the South Dakota Department of Correction. And it does not specifically say, it does show that he's out, but shows that he was an inmate and released here. So his father was living in Peru. His father let him come to Peru and stay with him. It shows he was living there 2016 and 17, right? I'll go backwards, because remember, this is telling you in the news article that he was in jail from 2001 to 2016. Well, let's go back. February of 2016, it shows him being at this address in Peru, and he's there but leaves in March 3rd of 2017, and that he's no longer there. Now, at one point he was married, did have a child, was supposed to be away from the child. Oops, sorry, going the wrong way. All right, so now look at James L. Haas. You sit here and you're like, okay, here's another inmate. What does this inmate have to do with Delphi, and why are they calling him? So he is a convicted murderer. He committed murder in Carroll County. I also did a little clip here for you guys to see something interesting. The judge for him was Judge Diener, and his attorney at the time, you got the prosecutor and stuff, so it shows his attorney, but you've got the McLeland is in here as well. So this is before. So this is the Comet paper. This shows back in 2017. Talks about Carroll County, got a 911 call saying that a woman returned home and that her boyfriend was unresponsive. And when they went in, they found the victim, who was Richland Hushan, 62, Deer Creek. He was deceased. Haas was the one who murdered him. And he knew this woman. And they show about the affidavit. And his brother also made comments and stuff and talked about this. And then it talks about who released the press release of this. Tony Lesenby, sheriff, that no additional information was going to be released about it. But he did get convicted. So we got a Carroll County murderer. Where's this guy? Well, I looked him up. He's in Michigan City at the Indiana State Prison, where Kegan Kline just left before he went to the Newcastle location. So when you look back at what I showed, my suspicion of Kegan Kline and these other inmates is because these inmates were at the same prisons with Kegan Kline. Now, I don't see any other connection from where they lived other than Chadwell. I don't see another connection from where they lived. But I do see that they were all at the same locations where Kegan was at the time. So we've got Chadwell, who was at Wabash. In my opinion, I don't think he was sitting there yapping with Chadwell. I'm just saying. But Chadwell, like I shared, there's a connection as far as that he was living in Peru, and he sat here with his father, and then he ends up in Lafayette after he gets evicted, and then this happens months later because he's kicked out in September. And then this happens in the spring of the following year, which is horrific. Then you've got, and by the way, can I just point out, just to say a comment for Chadwell, that Chadwell had that, I'm going to call it dungeon-like thing in the basement already, like to put this little girl and to have her in there and to lock her up and to chain her up and to do all this, you know, horrific. How was he staying there? Who was staying where? Not sure. But you've got these other locations, the one that he's currently in, which, you know, is ran independent, separate. And then you've got the Indiana State Prison, which has this murderer there. Is the reason that Kegan is being called along, at least with these two other guys, because they have a connection from maybe Kegan saying something to them, talking to them. Did he sit here and mention the story about him and his dad at the cemetery? Or did he say something about his dad was part of it? And that's why they're calling him forward with these other people, because they don't have CCM charges. You know, they don't have anything like that. It has nothing to do with it. One guy's charged with murder, other guy's charged with drugs and theft. So let's look at this. The defendant's motion to incorporate evidence presented at the August 1st pretrial hearing into offer of proof at trial. So the information that the defense brought forward in trying to claim that there's a third party involved, again, them staying with the ODINIST part of it, they want to have to bring that forward. And this motion was filed on October 11th at 11:36. Then on October, we have another filing. This was on the 7th that I wanted to bring up. But this one is the response to the state stating that they want one of, they have more than one, but they want to have the testimony basically not to come forward with the Tubin guy, right? The testimony of William Tubin. He is one of the witnesses that they're bringing forward for ballistics about the bullet. The state wants it Lamine, and this is the response to from the defense saying that they want it to be included on there as well. So there were other filing that happened, which, you know, they had to do it again, which was that the they want to motion to Lamine, the defense again, filed that they want all of the confessions that Richard Allen did thrown out. They're basically saying that the guards, the inmates, all of these people who Richard Allen told everything to are not mental health experts, and they're not qualified to say about Richard Allen confessing to them. And of course, they did ask for the doctor to come back and have the airfare paid from her from Chicago, the one that testified before. So they're sticking, at least they seem to be trying to stick with the ODINIST piece of it. Now, are they going to try to claim that Kegan is ODINIST and, you know, whatever? What I find interesting is they're calling Kegan. They're, as far as we know, they're not calling Tony. I wouldn't think Tony would testify anyway. So when we go back and look at all of this stuff that's being filed, what's happening and stuff from there, I think it may end up, you know, being talked about by Judge Gull during the time of the trial, prior to the trial, maybe, of addressing it if she's going to throw out. I don't see her changing her mind again about the confessions of Richard Allen. I don't know if she'll even take the testimony even of these inmates, because they're just general of the, all of a sudden these inmates are going to be called. And if they call Kegan and they have Kegan on the stand, they would have to go through what the defense would. You know, did you tell authorities you and your father were there at the crime scene? And then who knows what he's going to do. Is he going to say yes, that he did? He's going to say, were you lying? Was your dad involved? Blah, 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 blah. Or, you know, very easily say, did they question you about the Delphi case? Yes. Were you communicating with Libby and stuff on there, on social media? Yes. Did they believe that your father was the one who committed the crime? Yes. Right? See, the difference from that is Chadwell, that's not going to be there. You know, they may have had him as a suspect, but, you know, or a person of interest, let me put it that way, back when. But we had a lot of persons of interest that were going on back then. Lots of people they were looking at. Right? Daniel Nations, You know, I could go through the full list of every single person originally that they thought. So, you know, how's that going to be handled? I don't know. I find it interesting. But that is my theory of why these other people are being called, because of the connection of their incarceration. Indiana State Prison, Michigan City, right? Wabash living in Peru. And being in common at these sites. So are these witnesses inmates? Are these inmates being called forward? Who, you know, they're not going to get a deal. They're not going to get anything, and they're all serving a lot of time. Are these inmates going to be called because they were in jail with Kegan Kline at these locations? So that is what I have been looking at and going through. The Todd Click stuff I wanted to share with you. I am still working on to see if there's a connection with another case of a child who'd been in there, because that's concerning. If, you know, he's supposed to know internet crimes against children and be doing this stuff for Department of Child Services, and then he's not protecting these children. He's not turning in the reports. He's not talking to these people. He's not investigating them. Sorry, I was trying to read some of the comments here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm just looking. Hello, hello, hello. So we will, I'm sure they'll be able to pick the last of the juror. As I shared, if you weren't here at the very beginning, there have been 14 selected. They have 2 more. There's 100 prospects coming in of jurors tomorrow. They'll pick the final 2. And Judge Gull already indicated if they get done early, they will still not start the trial till Friday. Obviously, they have to allow the jurors to go home and be sequestered for that long. But I also do want to point out one of the things, and I don't know if is Cryptex still in here too. So I did a Cryptex was very kind to invite me over, and we did a show together. And I thought it was very interesting that one of the things that McLeland stated, and it was part of what I actually brought up in the theory for at the time of the murders. And McLeland stated it. And he had stated about that. So he's telling the jurors before the trial, talking to them about certain things, right? And so he's telling them that, you know, okay, that Richard Allen is Bridge Guy, who killed the girls and whose image was widely seen. And he talks about that he is going to show more proof that it's him. And then he says that, so Richard Allen used the gun to kidnap the girls. and have his way with them, word on word. And then his comment was, in the haste to murder the girls and throw their clothes in the river, the prosecution said that Allen left something behind, which was the bullet. So they said the unspent round was found next to the bodies, matching with his gun, which we'll be going through that. And he said that, I'm talking about all the dozens of times he was in there. But one thing that he pointed out, I'm trying to find where I wrote it down. Hold on. So he said, McLeland said, you're going to see photos and videos that showed Richard Allen is the bridge guy. That's what he told the jury pool. And one of the things that he talked about was that he was interrupted. That he was interrupted during the crime. And I believe that because that's exactly why I think it suddenly happened the way it did. And I brought up that I thought it could have been the phone. It could be the phone that it could have started ringing, because remember, that same timeline, they were still with, or the murderer was still with Abby and Libby, and that phone would have began to ring and buzz, I should say, because Dad is trying to pick them up and say that they're there, that he's there. And then suddenly we're going to get, the murder is going to get caught. The murder is going to get caught. Because now, the worry is that the girls are going to scream. They're going to yell. They're going to call out. The father's going to hear them. So I thought that was interesting. So obviously the bits and pieces are being told to the juror prior to it, being in there. We'll have the opening statements and stuff. It is very, very limited space. The lineup started at 4 a.m. in the morning, and there was very limited. So you've got Friday, which will start early trial. I am hoping that and to be honest with you, I really wish that Judge Gull would have let this be at least a court TV viewing, for everybody could see it happening, the dynamics. I get it. I understand why, because you don't want it to turn into an acting thing. Although with attorneys, I guess that is kind of what it is, but where they're trying to show up and make it as dramatic as could be. But I really wish it would be, because with us not seeing what's happening, what's going on, what's being said, what's being in there, then you do have where you're gonna have people who come out and say, oh, this was happening, or they didn't let this go on, or this person said it this way, or their body language was something different, and we don't know. But at the end of the day, what is it that we want? We want justice for Abby and Libby. That is what the case is all about. It is two little girls who went to Delphi Park, right? Went to the Monon High Bridge and were brutally murdered. And we have to find justice for those girls. We need to find out all of the answers. We need all the darkness to be exposed to the light, and anybody and everybody accountable for it needs to be held accountable for it, regardless of whatever role that they played. So, I appreciate you guys all being here. Please know, again, I'm not monetized. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. That shows me you appreciate what's going on. Please watch community posts in here to see updates, court documents, anything that's going on and happening. And we'll try to keep you up to date. And I am trying to catch up for my time of being out sick and ill to get some stuff done for you guys. So I appreciate all of you very much. It is finally here. The trial is finally here. All these years waiting, we're finally going to get answers. So thank you guys very much. Jinx, thank you for being here. And I appreciate all you guys. And let's just hope we get all the answers and everybody is held accountable. And thank you for being with me and making sure that justice is served daily. Good night, everybody. See you soon.